Howdy. As Iran has just, as I record this last night, launched a missile drone attack on Israel, and the world awaits Israel's response. I just want to point out that here we have the three Abrahamic faiths at war. In this case, Jews and Christians aligned against Muslims. Is the religious framing of this conflict for much of the last 1,500 years or so, 1,600 years. Well, actually, I guess 1,400 years. For much of the last 1,400 years, it's been more likely to be Jews and Muslims, at least in alignment, or at least Jews finding more favorable treatment under the rule of Muslims than Christians. But we often forget history and act like the present moment or our interpretation of events in the past, particularly the recent past, is the only way that the world should be viewed. And so we often forget that not always have current combatants been combatants, or current friends or compatriots been friends and compatriots, or at least neutral with respect to each other. Last several months, we've seen the entrenched positions of those who are pro-Palestinian and those who are pro-Israel in the conflict. We've heard a lot of references to history as it's viewed through different perspectives or from different perspectives. And I think that there's a thread that more correctly reflects what happened. And I think one of the clear indications of what's been taking place over the last 75 years in particular is that the leadership has dictated the direction in which the hopes for peace have gone, often without any consideration for the peoples that they are governing, and often in pursuit of goals that reflect age-old claims and aspirations for land and power and position in the world that may or may not actually be reflective of the best way to approach world governance, or governance in the world, I should say, today. And so I just want to suggest that as we all have our opinions on what is going on, I think it, for me, has been challenging to try to understand how we are finding ourselves in the brink of World War III, not just because of the Middle East situation, but because of Russia, Ukraine, and the way things are happening vis-a-vis China, and how Christians as Christians are responding. And the idea that as Christians, perhaps, we have to decide whether our Christian perspective is going to take priority over our political perspective. If in fact a political viewpoint that seeks to effect the best intent of the founders of the United States and the best ideals of a liberal democratic order are going to adopt positions or take actions that may not be reflective of the best intent or ideals of a Christian order. And so, while I think a basic Christian framework is in fact important and offers the best hope for realizing the best potential for mankind, the ideals when it comes to rule by God, whether it's from a Christian, Muslim, or Jewish perspective, seem to me to suggest ultimately a rule in which nobody questions that God is on the throne and that God is in control. Right now, the Western world, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, seem at odds over which view and understanding of God, in fact, is primary. And the non-Christian world seems to think that Christians are wrong altogether, and the testimony of the Abrahamic faiths to the rest of the world is there is no consensus on what, in fact, God wants or God intends with the world. So my main point in making this is to suggest that from a Christian perspective, picking sides in a conflict as a Christian may in fact put one at odds with the central theme of Christianity, uh, namely, every human being, apart from a relationship with Christ, is out of relationship with God. So it doesn't matter uh, what that individual claims with respect to faith or lack of faith, absence of faith, what that person practices with respect to faith or the absence of faith. If they don't know Jesus Christ and aren't in right relationship with God through Christ, they are, from a Christian perspective, lost. And from a traditional Christian perspective, there are only two options after death. Those who are in right relationship with God through Christ go to heaven. Those who are not in right relationship with God through Christ go to hell. It doesn't matter what nationality, what faith the persons claim while they're on earth. It's relationship with Christ that makes all the difference, ideally in the world, but absolutely with respect to eternity. So I'd be interested to hear what you have to say with respect to how, in fact, we pick sides in conflicts as Christians, and if, in fact, picking sides in conflict as Christians is actually reflective of the New Testament message. Thank you all very much. Look forward to hearing what you have to say. Bye bye. Thank you very much for your time. I've got a couple other videos listed here if you'd like to take a look at those. And as I'd like to discuss issues related to politics, religion, society, and how in the world we're supposed to understand ourselves and life in the world. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Bye bye.